Council Tuesday. Thank you. Tuesday, August 27th, 2024. The city of Merritt is a progressive, attractive, economically viable city that is socially responsible and environmentally sustainable. Land acknowledgement. We would like to begin this meeting by acknowledging that we are gathered on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Nk'Kapla and Silk people. 2.1 or 2, release of closed meeting decisions. 2.1, age-friendly and accessibility advisory committee. The following resolution is released from the July 23rd, 2024 closed session of council. That council appoint Judith Miriam to the Age-Friendly and Accessibility Advisory Committee for a term ending November 30th, 2026, and that council approve the public release of this resolution. Council Patrol. Oh. Seal.
Thank you, Your Worship. There's no need to vote on this motion. It was already voted on at a closed meeting, and it's just being released for public information.
So that's for public input. So
Same
that is done. Thank you for. Nope. Nope. Well, what's the question?
Well, I know that Judith Myron are age-friendly accessibility, but I do not remember when we had the meeting that we appointed Linda Isaac, but I don't remember her name being on that list. It was just Linda Isaac.
Seal.
Thank you, Your Worship. This was a decision that was made at the closed council meeting of July 23rd. The appointment of Linda Isaac would have been made at a previous one.
We've had two.
Okay. My old age is showing up then. I don't recall that.
So thank you. Thank you, Judith, for coming forward. Stewick's Steering Committee 2.2. The following resolution is released from the July 23rd, 2024 closed session of council. The council appoint Meg O'Donovan to the Stewick Steering Committee, and the council approve public release for this resolution, which we did. So I get you to kill your mic there, Councillor Charlie. Late items. Do we have any? No late items. Public input. Do we have any? Seal.
No, Your Worship, there's no late items at this point.
Okay, public input.
There is no one signed up for public input at this point.
Okay, thank you. Adoption of minutes, 5.1, regular council meeting minutes, July 23rd, 2024. Recommendation that the minutes of the regular council meeting held on July 23rd, 2024 be adopted. Councillor Petrosi, Councillor Egan, any questions on that? Any mistakes, any spelling errors, any teacher stuff? Just checking. All those in favor? Opposed, carried. 6, public hearing. Public hearing, the purpose of the public hearing is to receive input from the community and staff on the proposed bylaw as outlined in the notice of public hearing. The public hearing is being convened to pursuant to section 464 of the Local Government Act. The public hearing is being held in an in-person format, and members of council, staff, and the public are participating in person. Council will use the established speaker list. At the end of the speakers list, the chair may call on speakers from the audience. Each speaker will have 5 minutes to address council for a first time and should begin to remark to council by stating their names and address. After everyone who wishes to speak has spoken once, speakers will then be allowed one additional 5-minute presentation. Any additional presentations will only be allowed at the discretion of the chair. Please do not repeat information from your previous presentations and ensure your comments remain focused on the bylaw under consideration this evening. If a written submission has been provided, there is no need to read it as it will have been already seen by council. It can be summarized, ensuring the comments are pertaining to the bylaw under consideration at this hearing. All members of the audience are asked to be respectful of one another as diverse opinions are expressed. Council wishes to hear everyone's view in an open and impartial forum. Council is here to listen to the public, not to debate the merits of the bylaw. Council may ask clarifying questions. The corporate officer has a binder containing documents, submissions related to the bylaw, which council has received and which members of the public are welcome to review. Everyone at the hearing will be provided an opportunity to speak if necessary. The hearing will continue on a second night. If necessary, the hearing will be continued on a second night. At the conclusion of the public input, council may request further information from staff, which may or may not require an extension of the hearing. Or council may close the hearing, after which council should not receive further new information from the public, and the public hearing is being streamed live over the internet and recorded in accordance with the Freedom of Information Protection and Privacy Act. I will now ask the corporate officer to introduce the bylaws. Seal.
Thank you, Your Worship. The public hearing this evening is to hear information from the public on two bylaws, the OCP Amendment Bylaw number 2372, 2024, and Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 2373, 2024. The notice for this public hearing appeared in the Merritt Herald on August 15th and 22nd, and no submissions have been received at this time. And all statutory requirements have been met for this public hearing.
Thank you. We'll move on to 6.3, presentation by staff, presentation by Mr. Pranesh Jani, Manager, Planning and Development Service. Pranesh, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. For the OCP Amendment Bylaw 2372, 2024 and Zoning Amendment Bylaw 2373, 2024, the applicant is proposing to amend the OCP land use designation for the property civically addressed as 3940 Crawford Ave and 4079 Airport Road from service commercial to general commercial and mixed use, as well as proposing a rezoning from service commercial C7 to regional commercial C3 to enable mixed use development at both properties. As per the preliminary drawings provided by the applicant, the development is proposed in two phases. In phase one, building A, building B and building C are proposed. Building A will be a 4-story mixed use building at 3940 Crawford Ave. Building B will include commercial buildings at 3940 Crawford Ave, and building C is proposed to be a drive-through building at the 3940 Crawford Ave. In phase two, a mixed-use building is proposed at 4079 Airport Road. More details about the proposals are in the council report dated 23rd July 2024, which is also provided in today's meeting's agenda package. I would also like to clarify that the proposed OCP and zoning amendment bylaw will also require an approval from Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure prior to the final adoption. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representations from the public. Is there anyone here to speak on this? Seal.
There is a Perry Brand that is here.
Sure. Come to the microphone, please. I'll get you to hit the button in front of you there and I'll turn your mic on, sir. Thank you. Could I get you just to state your name for us, please?
Sorry, speaking regarding 2288 Burgess Avenue. So we are looking for a variance, almost struggling from last 2 years. Last name Broad, B-R-A-R, first name Perry, P-E-R-R-Y, address 2877 Upland Crescent, Abbotsford.
Thank you.
So we're looking for a variance for this property, and reason was because we are going to starting a condo site on 2350 Merritt Avenue. I think it's 89 or 90 condo site. So when we bought this property, because we need accommodation for all the tradesmen, because for 89 condo, we need lots of tradesmen from all over the place, because we can't get all from local here.
Mm-hmm.
There will be a lot of people coming from Abbotsford, Surrey, Vancouver, or some from Kamloops, right? So that was the biggest concern for us. So we can provide, we have enough space, we can build a duplex place there.
Oh, hold on a second. Hold on a second. So this is, Pranesh, can you fill us in here?
Yes, so this is a public hearing for the properties 3940 Crawford Ave and 4079 Airport Road. I'm guessing you're making comments about the proposed variance at 2288 Burgess Ave. Is that correct?
The one is mine is let's see.
I think we haven't reached there yet. We are going through the public hearing.
2288 Burgess.
Yeah, I think that's coming in late in the
Yeah,
agenda.
that's coming in later. Sorry, you're a little premature.
Oh, okay.
So we'll have to get, I'll just get you to hit that button again, please. Thank you. So anything, council, on The one up top or from the public? I'll ask one more time. Any input from the public on this? And I'll ask for a third time. Anything from the public on this? Thank you. Yes,
The addresses that we're asking the question on?
Pranesh, please.
Yes, it's 3940 Crawford Avenue and 4079 Airport Road.
And now questions from council. Are there any questions from council to Pranesh on the presentation? Anything that you've seen in the package? Anything? Councillor Etchart.
I know in the previous council term, we had limited drive-throughs in Merritt. So will this just be for this strip only, this variance?
The question, sorry.
Well, when we had done the OCP review in 2020,
Yeah,
we had limited drive-throughs because of idling, and that was a concern provincially. So when we had made the last OCP change, we had done that. So will this just be property by property or? for this
yeah,
amendment?
so thank you. Thank you for the question. The amendments were proposed for the residential drive-through property, for the residential properties only. This is basically a commercial drive-through. So I think we don't have any we haven't proposed any, there are some regulations in the zoning bylaw, but the recent amendments that were made in zoning bylaw that were only for residential properties, not for the commercial properties.
But for the commercial properties, will it just be property specific? Because we were eliminating drive-through new applications in the previous OCP amendment. That's what I was wondering.
Seal.
So I think at this point, the variance, the changing to these two bylaws is only related to the residential mixed-use properties. You may see in the future something in regards to the other property with the development on that property.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
because
so
we're,
it's not relevant at this particular time.
okay, well, I was only asking because if we're trying to limit our environmental impact from idling vehicles, I think it's a valid question, so.
Yep, thank you for bringing it up. Something we'll deal with in the future. Any other questions from council on this? Yeah. So we are concluding so that August 23rd, 2024 public hearing regarding bylaws 2372 and 2373 is closed. And that official community plan amendment bylaw number 2024 and zoning amendment bylaw number 2024 are returned to council for further consideration. Councillor Petrosi, Councillor Ogan. Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. And recommendation that council receive this report, this information. Do we have to go there? We don't have to do that part, do we? No. Okay, thank you. Let's moving on. 7, general matters, delegations and recognitions. 7.1, Ashley Lockie, petition regarding community status and resources to support the community. Ashley, if you were here, come on up, please. I'll get you to hit that button in front of you.
My name is Ashley Lockie and I live 2509 Aberdeen Road, Lower Nicola. My concerns is homeless don't have resources they need. Businesses have no food, foot traffic because they are scared to come into the store due to the homeless, garbage everywhere and broken glass. And drugs, animals and pets and kids might get at and harm them. Too many lives being taken due to the lack of mental health, not having the resources they need, workers not being trained right to deal with the situations. Prices are too high to live anymore and putting people into depression because they can't afford to live anymore or afford to get the meds that they need or rent to live a normal life anymore. When they are high or on alcohol, becoming violent towards people, hospitals being closed too much for people in need of medical attention. I do have some resources here. So my resources are, we could use a youth center for the kids, and there used to be youth centers for kids to keep them out of trouble. Sorry, I'm a little nervous.
Oh, don't be.
Detox.
You're just on TV, so don't worry about it.
Detox for homeless and rehab, maybe even walk-ins. I've talked to a few of the addicts myself, and they say that sometimes when they're ready, and then they have to wait 6 months to get into a rehab, which by then they've changed their mind. Buses for them that can help them live and taking them out to help them work in the real world, have them learn things like cleaning up the neighborhood or teaching them about nature and living a better life and learning how to forgive and forget and let the past go, helping them with the stress and the pain. A place they can shower and clean up instead of them not showering at all. More sports for kids that can sign up for. Counselors and therapies are desperate need in this town. Supporting people we really need in the world to succeed with helping people to live like truckers, nurses, doctors, counselors, therapy, education. Small businesses and farmers, police, low-income families get by, rehabs, detox, soup kitchens, schools, and mental health. Payment plans for the ones that want to get an education done for the future and following their dream. If they can't afford it, for schools or rehabs and detoxes, counselors and therapy, and maybe even medications that they really need to help them need to live to help them get back up on their feet. More options for schooling to help get work, keeping the earth clean and helping animals in good care, helping businesses by lowering rent so they can succeed with their business and giving them the option to follow their dream. More art options. So many talents are being wasted out there. Everyone has something they're good at. Helping people with jobs they can do for disability and mental health. These are my concerns. Those are my resources, and I'm just a caring person and would like to help the community with these things and get the community back to the way it once was. Was born here. I was raised in Calgary, but I've lived here for about 20 years with my daughters. And I would just like to see some really good resources, especially the bus one, because I think if people see them getting up and cleaning up the neighborhood, they're going to be more considering in their situation too. If that makes any sense. Sorry, you're nervous.
No, thank you, actually. And it's nice that you have the concern. You're not alone with a lot of things. So just to give you a couple of ideas on how things work in the world. Counselors and therapy, that is a provincially run situation. The city doesn't do that because we're not qualified to train those people. Last UBCM is quite a big deal that we go down to. We represent the city. We meet with ministers. And last year we met with Joyce Whiteside, the Minister of Health and Addictions. We were very concerned about the 2.5 decrim and how it was being used. Now, those who don't know, that is 2.5 grams of any drug to be used at any time, and at that time, anywhere. This doesn't help our situation at all. It was a 3-year pilot program, and one of the concerns that this council had is that we had the beginning of it until January 31st, 2023. But we had no reporting structure after that. The numbers, who was being helped, who was not, the amount of arrests, the people getting clean. Government decided that they weren't going to track that at all. We became very concerned the fact that how do you have a 3-year pilot program and not track any numbers at all? So how do we help people if we don't have numbers to help them? You talk about the price of rentals and stuff downtown. That is private businessmen. We do not control the downtown businesses. That is on them. And you'll also see today a notification came up from the provincial government that landlords cannot raise their rent more than 2.5 to 3%. So that is good. But you're right. A square footage for rental on brick and mortar in this town is quite expensive.
Yes,
and
I
just
do
about
know
everywhere
that.
else.
I have my own business.
Yes, I know you do. We talk about people that are affected coming to clean things up. Now, I've been in contact with a lady from Kamloops who runs a thing called Clean Team. And that's where some of the homeless over there are engaged every single day to get up and help clean up what's in the city. We're really working slowly on that. But that is going to be the situation where these people will want to actually do that. Now, it's taken about 2.5, 3 years for it to take off in Kamloops, but it is possible that these people will do this. A lot will not, and you can't force them to do anything. They'll do as
Most
they wish.
definitely. I'm more talking about the ones that will be
Yeah.
willing to accept
So-
the help. I mean, the more people we can get up
Yep.
and off there, the better. And the ones that we can't, maybe eventually they will.
And that's what we're looking at is, we're trying to get that kind of stuff done. You're right. So the RCMP has moved up their foot patrols and their bike patrols this year. We've asked them to do that.
That's fantastic.
The council, about 2 months ago, requested to the RCMP, that there be no more open alcohol or drug use in the city. There would be a pour out law. We've been doing that. Now, I'll be honest with you, we're down 6 RCMP at this point in time. So we are limited to how many we have, but we are getting some back. So they are available when they can be available.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to say. Council, any questions from council? Anything like that? Oh, Councilor Cherney.
I thank you for presentation. I see you're very concerned about things. You have a lot of concerns there and rightly so. It's a very complex situation, the homelessness and drugs.
Mhm.
And we as a council and staff are trying to address this. But it takes a long time to turn the ship. So
Most definitely, I definitely don't expect anything right away. I've lived a life like that. I totally understand the situations in both sides. I'm just here to address my concerns and give resources if it'll help with you guys helping the community too, right?
yeah, well, we do appreciate it. And I think that we will make strides forward to help both the drug situation and homeless.
One thing, Ashley, we do have a committee, the Age Accessibility Committee and what are we calling that? Sorry. The Age Accessible, is age friendly and accessibility. That might be somewhere you might want to be part of, to join that. We meet 4 times a year, sometimes more if we have to. And that's where we talk about quality of life for seniors. They can get around in our community. Things are, but we also talk about healthcare, harm reduction. That's where you may want to be sitting in on with that group. So I would suggest that maybe this week you get a hold of our CO and she can direct you on how to be on that committee so you can bring things forward.
Most definitely, I can definitely do that.
You bet you. And I also will let you know that next Thursday, September the 5th, we will be having an open house on what's happening in the community, the movement of the shelter, what all that means, all the information that comes with it. And everybody will be able to come get some information on that, have 2 or 3 hours of conversation. We'll have all the players there. So everybody knows exactly what that looks like and how everything's going to be working there. So that will be next Thursday night, not this Thursday, but next Thursday.
Oh,
And we would expect to see a lot of people there because we have a lot to go over on that. So
yes, most definitely.
I would be more than happy to see you there.
Perfect.
And my dog's nails are still in great shape. Thank you.
Oh, yes, I did do your dogs.
Thank you. Unless you have more, council, anything else? Thank you, Ashley. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Thursday, the 5th, 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. There'll be more advertisements in the paper and we'll have posters up and everything else like that. So it'll be over at the Civic Center. Yeah. Civic Center. Thank you, Ashley. You bet. Thank you. Moving on, bylaws 9.1 OCP amendment bylaw number 2372-2024 and zoning amendment bylaw number 2373-2024 going into the 3rd reading. Is this the gentleman? No? Okay. Recommendation that council gives 3rd reading to the official community plan amendment bylaw number 2372-2024. Councillor Petrosi, Councillor Ogun. Any questions on that part? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Second recommendation that council gives 3rd reading to zoning amendment bylaw number 2373-2024. Councillor Petrosi again. Councillor Hogan again. Any questions on that? All those in favor? Opposed? 9.2 City of Merritt Emergency Measures Bylaw number 2374-2024. Recommendation that council read City of Merritt Emergency Measures Bylaw number 2374-2024 a first time. Councillor Egan, Councillor Etchart. Any questions on that? Councillor Cherney.
Yes, under the Emergency Executive Committee, I was wondering, why representatives from the fire, the public works, law enforcement, ambulance, search and rescue, Red Cross, school district would not be included in this. I just took a course recommended by, Adam Hart, and in that course, when it talks about the, emergency executive committee, it mentions members from these groups should probably be part of the committee. So I was just wondering, will we include them or not? I'm just wondering why the rationale is that they are not included.
Seal.
So for
Yes.
for the executive committee under the bylaw, the it's council, because you are the ones who would make a vote for an evacuation order or a SOL. So state of local emergency. Those other agencies may be people we consult, but they don't have any decision-making power within the bylaw structure. So they may be people we consult, but ultimately the executive committee is the council, and then I would be your representative to enact those things.
Rebuttal.
Okay, so maybe there's a difference between emergency executive committee and an emergency committee. Okay, so I assume that those other groups would then be in that emergency committee.
Seal.
Yes, that is correct. So we obviously want to engage as many community groups as we can in a committee structure so that we have an understanding of everybody's resources. But for the executive committee, you are a decision-making committee, and you're the only ones with decision-making power as the elected representatives.
Thank you for the clarification.
Councillor Hogan.
Thank you. Just for my own clarification, I want to make sure that I am understanding this correctly. So the ETMA, is replacing the EPA, correct?
There is yes, one has replaced the other. The new act has come into effect.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the big difference is that, in my opinion, is that the updated bylaw will allow council to authorize the city of Merritt to borrow money when there is a state of local emergency. Is that
Yes,
correct?
that is correct.
So in the old bylaw, it was since 1996. So at that time, that was not happening. So how did we handle these situations without having that authorization to borrow money?
So what happens in a state of emergency, once the EOC, the Emergency Operations Center, is activated, we contact the PREOC, which is the regional center, and we get what's called a task number, which is our number to then bill back to the province. So we ultimately, hopefully, will never have to borrow money, but if something comes up and we can't, for some reason, an extenuating circumstance, we could borrow money. But ultimately, what should happen is that we should have a task number that is for during a local emergency, we are always billing back to the province. And so we have to get their authorization. So once that task number, whether it's for our EOC or ESS, we are cost recovering from the province.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Recommendation that council read the City of Merritt Emergency Measures Bylaw number 23742024 a second time. Councillor Etcher, Councillor Egan, any other questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Recommendation that council read City of Merritt Emergency Measures Bylaw number 23742024 a third time. Councillor Baxter, Councillor Petrosi. Any other questions on that? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. And thank you for that explanation. Thank you for the great question, Councillor Hogan. 9.3. OCP Amendment Bylaw number 23772024 and Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 23782024. Recommendation that council gives first reading to the official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw number 23772024. Councillor Petrosi. I need a seconder. Councillor Charney, any questions on this one? See. Oh, Councillor Charney.
I do have concerns with putting anything on where there is an aquifer underneath it, especially since this is, you could potentially have a bulk petroleum plant on this. Even a auto wrecking facility, fuel could leak through. So, water is always a concern. And I'm very worried that, yeah, the bulk petroleum and electricity sales, vehicle storage and towing, vehicle services, any of recycling depot could have contaminants, and any of those could leak through, and it is right on top of an aquifer. There were several letters also suggesting that it's a vulnerable spot for this type of zoning. So I have great concern with what is going to be put there in the zoning.
CEO.
So I'm going to have the planning team give you a bit more, but I think it's important to differentiate the rezoning versus the development process, right? This is the rezoning, and then there is controls that come into place during the development process as well. So I will have one of my planners will speak to this a little bit more, but two different processes, so they'll be able to explain that a bit more to you.
Bernish.
Thank you, Councillor Cherny, for the question. So for the rezoning process also, we are gonna request, we're gonna draft a restricted covenant, and any uses that produces harmful chemicals which have a potential to leak through the property, those kind of uses like petroleum, those uses will not be allowed. And staff is going to prepare a restricted covenant, and we're going to need council's directions on that, so that all those type of uses are not allowed. So the uses which can negatively impact the aquifer beneath, those kind of uses will not be permitted, and we will have to have a conversation with the developers and the applicants regarding the proposed uses. I just want to mention that whatever use is currently allowed in M1 zone, it's not going to be allowed. So we will have to have a conversation and discussion with the applicant and the developer to identify the uses which can minimally impact the aquifer.
So right now they want to zone it to light industrial.
Correct.
So then you would then have to take all of these principal uses and eliminate some of them. So that's what
Yes,
you're
that's
going to do?
correct. Yeah.
We've done this before.
Okay, so my thing is Johnny Blow buys it now and then he sells it later on, and that still applies to that property, or can it somehow be lost in the paperwork?
So covenants are on the property and they transfer from sale to sale. The other thing too is when we go through the development process for this property, this is a suspected aquifer. I don't think it's even confirmed, is it? Was this one the IH thinks there might be an aquifer under there?
This is Krisha has some.
We've done-
We would be doing geotechnical and environmental studies on this property as
Yeah,
well.
we've done this before. There was a battery rendering that was trying to come in here. We said no.
Mhm.
There were some other things that were quite.
No.
We've said no, so.
Okay, as long
You're-
as we protect the
Yeah.
aquifer
And you'll see
or
that
potential aquifer.
you'll see that as a further down in the resolutions for tonight, there is a resolution applying to the covenant that Mr. Janney just spoke to, that we're asking you to prove that we have a covenant on the zoning.
Councillor Etcher.
I had similar concerns as Councillor Charney. I see in there that there's probably gonna be, I guess, the 2 feet of fill put in the property to ensure safety. But I do share the similar concerns because Pine Street, we had a similar discussion on, and everybody's not as worried about flooding, and then November 15th, 2021 happened. So you do worry about things that could be washed into the river from a climate event. So I think those concerns are valid. So I'm glad that there'll be a covenant, but I also remember that when there was an old parking restriction on a building in the 1900 block of Chapman Street, or behind the old laundromat. There was a covenant in there and it was removed. So I think to remove anything like that would have to come back to council. So I guess we have protections. It's just that I'm worried about the environment and contaminant, just like Councillor Charney, and I think everybody would. And if we don't question that, I think that wouldn't be doing a service. So thanks for bringing that up.
Councillor Hogan.
Thank you. So, first of all, thank you so much for the staff for all this information provided. I think that I'm pleased with the consultation that you did with all these community partners. So, in my opinion, it's clear that there are concerns by interior health, also concerns by the First Nations community. The Ministry of Water, Lands and Resources, there was a few concerns as well. The Ministry of Environment. So overall, the various stakeholders express significant environmental concerns, particularly regarding groundwater protection and the potential impacts of cultural important areas. So I know that we are talking about some restrictions here, such as the covenants. So I just don't feel comfortable, despite the covenants, that we can, protect this area specifically underground water. So I feel very, very concerned about that.
Thank you. Councillor Egan.
Thank you. I'm looking at this map or this diagram here, and it's the yellow part and the pink part that we're talking about here, these two lots. And I'm curious as to what they were actually proposing to put on there, because I know there's already been, every time there's high water, there's somebody sitting in here that gets affected by it every time. And I'm not sure if Moon Shadows does, but I would really be curious as to what they're planning to put on these two parcels. Never mind all the things that they're allowed to do. I would like to know what their real intent is.
That won't come until they do a development permit. So, and it's not up to us to ask them what their intent is.
I can address some
Sure,
of the
please.
process.
Yeah.
So, when someone purchases a property and asks for rezoning, that does not guarantee them the ability to use the property as they choose to. This is where they're speculating, right? Like they're saying, oh, I'm going to buy this property. They still have to meet all of our referral requirements. So if Walrus Water
Wetlands, natural resources.
Natural, yeah, and if the First Nations have issues, culturally protected areas, they still have to have a monitor on site. They will still have to do an environmental study. They will still have to do geotechnical. They will be responsible for protecting their own property. So if the recommendation from their engineering is that they need to put a dike in, that will be at their cost. If they need to raise up the land, that's all at their cost. None of that, unless they get through the development process with no issues, none of that guarantees, none of this rezoning guarantees their ability to put something on the land. So they can't even enter into the process without it being rezoned. So the rezoning allows for us to help them move forward with determining whether or not they can use the land in the way in which they want to use the land. So you're right, you can just say no because it's not a good idea, and council is appropriately concerned about the potential of impact on underground aquifer, 100%. But there's nothing that says we have to let them put something on just because we've rezoned it. So it's really the development process next that determines whether or not they can move forward.
And I've said on a council where we have refused two people and their idea, and we said no. So it's up to us.
Right,
and
thank you.
The benefit of the community. So appreciate the concern, and I have a mover and seconder on this so far on the first reading. Okay, all those in favor? Nope. Seal. Do I have a mover and seconder? Yes.
I just wanted to confirm and consult with Ashlyn. Can you just refer who?
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? We better do that again. All those in favor? Opposed? Defeated. So there's no sense in moving ahead on the rest of it. So we're done. 9.4 OCP Amendment Bylaw 2339 and Zoning Amendment Bylaw 2340 Middlesbrough Amendment. Recommendation that council adopt official community plan amendment bylaw number 2339-2022, and that council adopt zoning amendment bylaw number 234-02022. Councillor Rogan? Councillor Petrosi, any questions on this one? Councillor Sharn?
Could you tell me what recreation commercial is? Like what would go, its existing zoning is recreation commercial. What does that entail?
Mr. Janney, you probably have a definition right there in front of you, eh? Councillor Carney's question, once we found the definition.
Well, am I still up?
You're still up.
Okay, I was just kind of wondering here, like he's got 4 lots and he's kind of, I don't say, I can say they're kind of mixing residential with industrial. And I kind of find that kind of weird, but you know, I went and looked at the piece of property today, and it's a nice piece of property. It would be nice if it could stay recreation. So that's why I wanted to know what it's originally zoned for. And industrial, what type of industrial is that? It doesn't say light, doesn't say heavy, it just says industrial. That's the OCP land use designation.
So on page 99, it says the applicant is intending to develop the subject property as light industrial.
Okay.
The use is yet to be determined.
This is a situation where until the rezoning is adopted, the applicant will probably not move forward with any development or planning because they aren't going to action something that they can't develop on. So typically in a situation where there is residential and light industrial, so you're separating some properties out, there is a like a barrier, there's kind of like a block, trees, a buffer, thank you, buffer zone between industrial, light industrial or residential. So we have another property that is 2 adjacent properties that are currently being developed, where that same buffer has to occur between the industrial side and the residential side to separate them and give some some sound dampening, keep people out of the industrial neighborhood unnecessarily. So again, we don't know the intended use until we see the development permit, but they won't do the development until any of the development work until the rezoning happens. If it happens.
So I am concerned about that industrial also because there is water close by, the river is close by. And again, industrial does have petroleum and other things on there that could seep through. So I think we have to look at, how we're going to zone that. I'm worried about that one too.
Councillor Richard.
I always hate going after Wendy because she kind of steals my thunder, but anyway. The truth is, in the past, we had looked at this, I think 2 years ago, and this one makes more sense to me because you can have kind of a mixed use. You have the buffer over on Pooley, we have industrial, and then you have kind of a separation, and then in behind you have McLean, I think is it McLean Place and Sage and Telemon. So at some point, we kind of have to make an amendment. Also, the truck route is near there's Barkman's already, and we kind of have a precedence of the industrial, even if it's light industrial on that one side, because it does face some of that property. And also on the one side, isn't that where some of the townhouses were in that area as
Yep.
well? On the other side of the street. So to me, this one makes more sense that you could have light industrial because the truck route is there. And there's already near the energy plant and where development is happening and it's kind of contained in an,
Oh, in there, okay, yeah.
it's a mix of both, but it does make
Get you to
sense.
kill your mic, Counselor Tron.
Because there's different spots, because I know when we looked at this in the past, the tip end was kept so that it could be undevelopable land. That was, I think, done in 2022. But anyway,
Counselor Petrosi.
So just looking at this property, so surveys have been done, I guess because of the call from before, so everything is good to go there. Is that correct? They can.
Ganesh?
Yeah, I would like to also clarify that staff is processing a subdivision application with the applicant Doug Finlay at this point, and this rezoning is part of that subdivision application. So there are a lot of we have issued a preliminary layout review which has a lot of requirements regarding the historic mining activities, and we have received mining reports and environmental reports from the applicant. So this is a transitional file, and myself and Mr. Green were recently reviewing it, and there were some outstanding items as a part of the subdivision application, and this rezoning was part of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes.
This resolution is from a public hearing that was held and is now closed. So we cannot provide any new additional information in regards to this.
Okay, did not know that until now.
Yeah, thank you to the CO for that.
Okay, thank you. So we will just go to the call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Let's do that again. All those in favor? Opposed? Nobody. Carried. Thank you for that, letting us know that it's already gone through. No problem, it's fine. We just wanted to watch Pranesh West a little bit in his fancy suit there. 9.5 OCP Amendment Bylaw number 23752024 and Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 23762024. Recommendation that council gives first reading to the official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw number 23752024. Councillor Petrosi, Councillor Ogan, any questions on this one? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Recommendation that council gives second reading to the official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw number 23752024. Councillor Etchart, Councillor Baxter, any questions on this one? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Recommendation that council gives first reading to zoning amendment bylaw number 23762024. Councillor Petrosi, Councillor Baxter again. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Recommendation that council gives second reading to the zoning amendment bylaw number 23762024. Councillor Etchart, Councillor Cherney. Any questions on this one? All those in favor? Carried. Recommendation that council direct staff to schedule a public hearing. Councillor Etchart, Councillor Ogan. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. That's got to be the driest bit of business we've ever done in our entire life. Oh, really? Okay. 10.1 New Business Nicola Valley Arts Council mural approvals. Presented by Mr. David Zackel, Director of Community Service. Mr. Zackel, please come front and center, please. Did you push that button?
Good evening, Your Worship.
Good evening.
So yes, council, we have a recommendation and a presentation by the Arts Council tonight. Olivia Nendek should be coming up and doing a presentation. I will let her take over. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Olivia.
Hi.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
We'll get you to take it away. So
Okay.
you're on.
Okay, so as Dave Steckel said, I'm Olivia Nendick, and I'm one of the summer students for the art gallery for the summer. And I'm here to kind of just walk you through what we've achieved over the past couple of years through murals in the city. You know, I've always loved art, and I think it really brings the community together and brightens up the place. So I'm really excited to show you what we have for you. So first of all, I just wanted to kind of talk about the artists that we have featured in the murals that we have in the town that we've kind of collaborated with. We have Leonard George. He is a very well-known Indigenous artist. He's done a lot of murals with us. We have Joel Reed. And yeah, he's helped out a lot. He's a very established artist in Merritt too. And then we have Carrie Croker and Brooklyn Harris, which have been summer students as well. So our first mural that we kind of started off with was by Leonard George in 2022 in Lions Memorial Park. You can see that he painted the bathroom and then the bridge. Yeah, I think it's beautiful painting. When it was first done, I thought it was very vibrant. It brought a smile to my face, and I think I drive by it every day. So when I go to work, so it makes me happy. And I hope that you guys have noticed it too and makes you guys happy. Another project that we had was a sunflower project in 2022. Carrie Croker and Brooklyn Harris did this one. This building is behind Interior Savings. And it's obviously a bunch of sunflowers. Each one has kind of like their own detailing. And yeah, I wish it was more noticeable, like more in the community, because you can't really see it unless you go behind Interior Savings. But yeah. And then another project we had in 2022 was the hexagons, which was more of a community project that Carrie Croker led. So each hexagon had like their own community member paint it, and it was put on that wood plaque, but now we're having it put on a building outside, so everyone can see it, and someone could walk by and be like, "Oh, I did that," kind of bring the community together. And then this was another one that we did in 2022. It was an interactive mural by Carrie Croker and Brooklyn Harris. Unfortunately, they were in the band shell at Rotary Park, but they're not there anymore. But I thought they were a really cool idea. A lot of people enjoyed them. Unfortunately, I think they were stolen. So we don't have them anymore. But yeah, they were great murals. And then this one was done by Joel Reed. It's in the community policing garden. I think it's supposed to be a flower, and yeah, I don't know. If anyone recognizes or knows Joel Reed's work, you can kind of see it, and it's interesting to see the way he sees things. And then another project we did in 2022 was with Carrie Croker and Brooklyn Harris, was the Rotary Park bathrooms. Yeah, I think it's a great mural. Really brings some life to the park. I think Rotary Park is probably our most popular park, I would say. And, it's just it's very eye-catching. So I feel like kids get there and then they're excited to go to the park, and then they see this mural, and it's just it takes a second to kind of look at it and see what's all there. So. And then now we're going to 2023. In 2023, Carrie Croker and Brooklyn Harris did this mural with Breathe Bikes. It's behind their building, and yeah, I think it's a really fun mural. You can see on the right side there's like a bike, and then I think Dr. DeGasso, his orthodontist place is there, so that's why there's like a mouth and braces, which I think is kind of funky and pretty cool. And then this is one of my favorites. It's on the side of Simply Sugared. And this was done by Carrie Croker and Brooklyn Harris. And yeah, I think it's a really pretty mural. I drive by it a lot, and I wasn't around at the art gallery when it was done, but once I noticed, I was very happy to see it there, because it's just very pretty and adds to the community. And then this is Carrie Croker's crow that she did in 2023. And we just recently this summer added it to the building at the art gallery. So when tourists are driving by, they can see the beautiful crow and we added a speech bubble so they kind of know what the building's about. And yeah, I think it's a really impactful painting. And then another painting by Leonard George that we're planning to hang in Merritt somewhere. We don't really have a home for it yet, but it's been in the studio since I've started working there. So I've gotten to see it every day. And yeah, every time I see it, I just notice something more about it. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we've got a lot of bare walls in here.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, sure. Okay. And then this is another one that we're trying to find a home for. It's Brooklyn Harris's Zentangle. This is also still in the art gallery, and I've walked by it multiple times while working there. And yeah, it's a great piece. Like I feel like every time I see it, I just notice something different. Like this side is thicker lines in the mountain in the middle. One side is darker green, the other's lighter green. The both suns have different designs. Like it's a simple piece, but it kind of it has more depth to it than you would think. And yeah, I think we were gonna try and put it at the Bailey House, but I think that fell through. So we're trying to find a home, but yeah. And then this is a satellite that we did with Leonard George for Canada Day. He painted it in 2023, but this year at Canada Day in Rotary Park, we had community members sign the back of it. And it was a really fun kind of project that we did because, Canada Day, I feel like is about everyone coming together. And then we have Leonard George, he did this beautiful, Indigenous themed painting. And then we had the community involved. So it was great. We're hoping to hang it up soon. And then we also had this little project this in 2024 was a rock snake. So we had this woman come forward to us and told us about how other towns and cities have rock snakes. And on Canada Day as well, we had kids and parents paint little rocks and add to the rock snake. It's not in the park right now, but I think my boss told me we found a home for it. So hopefully it will be put somewhere soon, but it was super fun. This little girl painted the rock and she did like a pizza slice, and it was just cool to see, kids getting all creative. And then this is one of my favorites that I got to be a little involved with this summer. So this was a mural done by Brooklyn Harris, and I got to help a little bit, but she's like the main deal. But anyways, the Bottle Depot came forward to us and wanted I don't know if anyone has noticed, but he has like this giant red fence, and it's kind of just, yeah. Anyways, so he wanted to kind of like mix it up and make it more vibrant and colorful. And so he decided he wanted cans and bottles with flowers. And yeah, I think it's a really cool mural that Brooklyn came up with. Yeah, the colors, it's very eye-catching. And actually, it's kind of funny. So there's a worker who lives on the property in a trailer. And I don't know if in the photo with the door, can everyone see? Anyways, so that's kind of his door that he leaves the property with. And he, one time when we were painting, came out and was like, hey, could you guys paint my favorite beer can on my door? So on the door is his favorite beer. It was just a fun little thing, but yeah, anyways. And then this is another mural done by Brooklyn Harris. She did this in like a day. I came to work and she was just painting away, and yeah, she's incredible. I think it was kind of just like spur of the moment. Can you paint this for us? And she did it. And yeah, it's also with the crow on the art gallery building, and it's just vibrant and has a little, inspiration to it. And yeah, I think it adds to the place. And then we also did this, this has been an ongoing thing, but the art gallery collected a lot of satellite dishes over the years, and we've gotten a variety of artists to paint them. And we've just now this summer put them in Rotary Park on the fence. So when you're walking by, you can see these cool satellite dishes that people have done. The dog, Brooklyn Harris, and then she did the crocodile at the end. And they're just really fun and interesting. And yeah. And then another thing that we have done this summer is Joel Reed did a mural in the band shell. Yeah, this is where the interactive murals were that were stolen. But anyways, yeah, I think it's a great piece, and you know, we are the Nicola Valley, so it added to it. And yeah. Oh, and then presently we have Leonard George painting on the side of Kukuli. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to talk to him about what his piece is about or what he's aiming for, but you know, he has the beautiful colors and he has the mountains and the trees. And I think on this side I see maybe an eye, so maybe there's going to be an animal, but I'm really excited to see the finish of it. And yeah, that's what I wanted to show you guys.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you, Olivia. And I have to be honest, we really appreciate the murals. When you come in this way and you see the one on the washroom there,
Yeah,
it just adds such a nice view to the community.
yeah,
We've actually asked the Minister of Arts and Culture to come up and actually have a look at that and see
Oh,
the
really?
murals. So trying to get her to come to town and have a look at that. So really appreciate the work and the insight that the Arts Council does, and that they do what they do, because it really spruces up our community. And what's really nice to see is that nobody defaces these.
yeah.
It's quite interesting that that doesn't happen. So
Mhm.
now that I've said it, so hopefully.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Councillor Charney.
Thank you for that presentation. It was excellent. And
you.
I appreciate every art piece that is put up around the city.
Mhm.
It adds to our city, and it's great for our citizens and tourists. And I'd like to thank every one of you on the Arts Council for doing this.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you.
Councillor Olgan.
Hi, Olivia. So
Hi.
it's really nice to see all these pieces of art around town. So it's nice to go for a walk into Rotary Park and see all these satellite, murals. It's great. So I have two questions. The first question is about maintenance. So
Uh-huh.
when you come up with, or the Arts Council come up with a new mural, so who's in charge of that maintenance? Because after, after a period of time, it's gonna be
Yeah.
faded, all that. So are you guys have into your budget to maintain these murals?
I believe so. Yeah, I think that is a priority. I think my boss, Michelle Pierce, if we notice like a mural is kind of losing its touch, or I'm sure that touch-ups, obviously this is my first summer working there, but our murals are very important to us. So I believe that that can be a part of the budget.
And my next question is about ownership. So I noticed that Brooklyn Harris has made so many of these
Yeah.
paintings. So who has ownership at the Arts Council, or it's the person who is painting the murals?
Mm. I believe it's the Art Council.
Yes.
I mean, I could be wrong, but she does get to like sign it, so her name's out there. But I do believe that the Art Council has
Yeah, no, sure.
ownership.
Okay. And last question is for staff. So regarding the location for the city dog pound, so it's my understanding that the Arts Council is going to cover all the other murals except this one. So this is coming from the community service operational cost. So how much are we talking about for that specific mural, and about the location?
So the dog pound is because it is kind of if I was a dog, I wouldn't want to stay there. So we're trying to make it a little bit brighter and more, I don't know, just like a little bit of a nicer space for the animals. It's pretty dark and dank. And so, yeah, we're just trying to spruce it up for them. And I think, Mr. Zach, what was the approximate cost to get that mural done? So we just, something better than what it is.
Not gonna make murals of cats on it, right?
No,
Anyone else? Any other questions? Thank you, Olivia. Appreciate it.
of course, thanks for having me.
Thank you for your presentation. So we have a recommendation that council authorize murals to be placed at the following locations: Vote Park bathroom and showers, City Dog Pound, Dragon Rock display placed in flower beds on DeWolf Way. Councilor Petrosi, Councilor Ogan. Any questions on this? I saw you, Councilor Patrick. Any questions on this? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. 10.2 Housing Accelerator Fund 2 application presented by Ms. Holly Ferris, Housing Merit Project Director. Ms. Ferris.
Director, come up and discuss this with you. It's a relatively straightforward project in that we're going to try and get some money from CMHC. And we like to take other people's money.
Ms. Ferris,
Good evening.
you are good to go.
Okay. So the recommendation is that council receive the attached report for information and that council direct staff to submit the application to the Canadian Housing Mortgage Corporation, CMHC, for the Housing Accelerator Fund 2. So we did submit an application last year, which was not approved. So this is round 2. There's $400 million for all of Canada to apply for this. We were invited to apply based on our attempt last year. So as we are considered a rural community under 10,000 people, we were asked to submit between 3 and 5 initiatives. So we went with 5. Myself and our grant writer have met with CMHC weekly the last 4 weeks to discuss our application and what we felt were the strengths that we could do in our community. So we discussed developing an underused municipal land policy, inventory and bylaws. So that would be completing an inventory of underused municipal land as well as develop policy, update the good neighbor bylaw to discourage vacant land and builds to encourage, rentals or sales for new housing opportunities in the community. The second one was land acquisition, disposition, policy, and strategy. So enable mixed use development of city-owned properties where appropriate, maintaining the current government use. So this could include starting a municipal development corporation with the objective to provide wraparound whole system services such as housing and well-being services, feasibility study to engage with both public and private sector and stakeholders, to learn about acquisition, partnership opportunities and incentives, including a business plan to roll out the municipal development corporation. So again, this is just exploring these options. This doesn't mean that this is going to happen in the community. Number 3, develop a grants program to encourage affordable housing development. So for this one, that could mean any secondary suites in our community that aren't currently legalized, bringing them up to code. That would actually count as new housing stock in our community, according to CMHC standards. So using some of this grant money to actually encourage that, to make sure that people are living in safe and secure housing. So that was number 3. Number 4, establish standardized designs and pre-approved building plans. So this is something that both the provincial and federal government are already working on through the federal, I want to say it was the 1950s housing plans, and then the provincial government's also doing this. So this is working with local manufacturers to establish pre-approved building plans and working with development and planning services to update zoning bylaws accordingly. So again, exploring this to see if this is possible. And the last one is to streamline the approvals process. So to review the current approvals process for attainable and sustainable housing, ensuring that projects have completed applications and that they're prioritized. So through these 5 initiatives, staff are estimating that there would be building permits issued for an additional 135 new housing units. That doesn't mean single detached homes, that's just units over the next 3 years. This is based on current developments coming into the community, discussions with developers, and discussions with the planning department. With this estimate and the funding application, staff are requesting for $4.7 million through the funding application process.
Thank you. Teal.
So ultimately, what we're looking for at this point is we would like to submit this funding application, and CMHC, the Housing Accelerator Fund, is based on if we have these initiatives, we get a certain amount of funding for each unit, which gets us to that 4.7 million. And depending on the type of funding, if it's local, close to local transit, if it's affordable, if it's missing middle, like they have all their categories, and each of them gets, so each unit gets a base amount of funding, and then if you meet other criteria, you get a little bit more funding. Housing. Well, no, so it's very complicated. We don't actually have to build any of the houses. We just have to make it easier for people to build houses. So we could potentially put this, like, as the director was saying, you know, a lot of our processes are being reviewed, and we could put it towards support to the staff to be able to review those processes, develop new bylaws, policies and procedures, new tools. Right now, we're still working to roll out e-permitting for building permits, but ultimately the idea would be that everybody would be able to do all of their submissions online. And that's sort of the way things are going, and the way the province and the federal government want us to go. But we don't actually have to use it to build any houses. We just have to make houses buildable. So the more options we have to bring more housing into the community, and make it happen in that next 3 years, the accelerated part, that's what they're looking for. So if a developer said, okay, well, I'm not gonna be able to build these houses for another 5 years. What can we do to get them to build those in 3 years? Right? So it could be that, you know, we're going to use some of this money to service and prep a lot that we own, that we will contribute to a development in exchange for affordable housing. There's lots of options. The other part of it being that we are, as the director talked about, the Municipal Development Corporation. So when we talked about the monies that we would have coming out of the sale of the flood recovery trailers, and how we're going to use that money to support housing development in the community, we're currently engaging in a feasibility study to develop a corporation, an arm's length corporation, that would allow us to work not just on housing, but potentially work on economic development as a greater, so bringing new industry or whatever into the community. So if we're working with a developer who's going to have commercial and residential, and we're going to have some equity base in that, it's broader for us to be able to have a development corporation, a municipal development corporation, rather than a housing corporation, right? So there's a lot of parts of this, but ultimately what we're looking for is the approval to apply for the funding. We didn't get it last time. Some communities got extremely large amounts. And so the fact that it came out again was a bit of a surprise, because it was supposed to be a one-time deal. So we're hopefully going to get at least a part of this, if not all of this, this funding, that we'll be able to add to our anticipated 8-ish million that we're anticipating having for housing projects in the community.
Thank you. So we do have a recommendation. The council directs staff to submit the application to the Canadian Housing Mortgage Corporation, CMHC, Housing Accelerator Fund, HAF. Councillor Egan and Councillor Baxter, any questions? Let me get the mic here. Who goes up first? Councillor Olgan's up first. Look at his mic.
Sorry. So my question is, given the city's previous unsuccessful application, I want to understand what changes or improvements have been made to this application to maximize the chances to get approved. We were talking about 5 initiatives when the application was submitted in 2023. What different initiatives were included at that time?
I don't know if the mayor remembers, but during our housing workshop that we attended virtually, the federal minister said something about, you know, they were looking for exciting and sexy applications, that we're going to build lots of houses, and ours was not going to build enough houses.
So
that's ultimately what it is.
Also too, when we got the grant up at the airport, the Clear Skies grant one year, and then we were denied the next year. It's just the luck of the draw. That's all it is.
Yeah,
And it's, I think it's also, and Mr. Green may be able to, I think it's how quickly you get it in and how prepared you are.
Is how many initiatives that are included in this application were included in the 2020?
so some of them are the same, but we've reworded them based on the feedback we've gotten from our consultant at CMHC, so our representative at CMHC. So those stuff around permitting, that was included in there. I think that might be the only one that was specifically included was the e-permitting. So we've made that sexier. I don't know, people use these words, spicy.
Councillor Egan.
Thank you. Yeah, my question was the same as Councillor Olgan's, but also, you say that CMHC is on board with all of these?
Yes.
And is it possible to get money for all 5?
So you have to submit in the small and rural community stream, you have to submit a minimum of 3, but they'd like to see 5. So you're judged on the minimum submission requirement. So I think the large communities at 7. So we have to submit 5. They judge us on those 5, and then they give us whatever chunk of the pot that they're going to give us.
Okay, so my question would be, which ones do we prefer?
Well, so when you submit all.
No, we could always use money for each of these things.
Yeah, so when you submit all 5, we're getting granted based on how many houses we think we're gonna build. But that money doesn't necessarily go to those things. We could take all that $4.7 million and put it in underground infrastructure.
So
Right, like,
it's a hard asset.
yeah, it's a hard asset, or we could use it for staff too. This is a very strange funding because they don't expect us to build houses, but they expect houses to be built, but we don't have to use this money directly for any of building of houses. We could use it to put in a new green space. We could use it to make a sidewalk. We could use it to underground infrastructure. We could use it for consultants. It's a really weird funding. So each house that we anticipate building, and what happened is that every year they review our goals for the year. And if we're meeting our milestones for the year, we get our 1/3 of the funding. Then the second year, same thing, we get another 1/3 of the funding. At the end of the 3rd year, if we haven't met all of our milestones, we don't get that final 1/3. So you ultimately get the first 2/3 pretty much no matter what. It's the final year of funding. You may not get the 1/3 if you don't meet 135 is our goal. Right? But we're pretty certain we're going to meet 135. And based on the feedback from the direction from our CMHC consultant, these are the ones that they want to see. These are the ones that will get us some money in some way. Whether we get the full 4.7 will depend on how many communities apply. But if you applied and you got money in the first round, you cannot reapply in the second round. So it takes out some of those really big, like Richmond and Winnipeg and like half of Alberta. So.
Thank you. Are you, is that it, Councillor Egan?
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Charney?
Mine was very similar, wanting to know why the grant was not successful. Was it just because we weren't sexy enough? Or was there something else that? Whoa. So the 4.7 million ends up being about $35,407 per unit. So as you said, I was a bit worried that it was going to be on paperwork only, but you're saying it can be used for infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and so one of the initiatives that we're proposing is that so when the director says that those suites that are not currently meeting building code and are not legal, our goal is to do some granting to those homeowners to get those suites legal. Right? So that's a way we might choose to spend this money. Again, we don't necessarily have to make that decision right now. We're just recommending this is one of those initiatives we'd like to do. And once we get the grant, then we prioritize where the money goes, or how much we give for granting, whatever. But if we get any of those illegal suites that we get brought into legal status, counts into the 135. And we know based on the development that we have with the planning and development team, that there is lots of opportunity for us to invest in local development with some of the funds that we know we're going to have. from our other housing initiatives to be able to accelerate those housing builds.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Could they be used for assisting those houses that are still not occupied due to the flood?
It may very well be able to, because ultimately we're trying to bring, whether they're brand new builds or they're builds that we're bringing back to a standard, a code, we may be able to look at that. Again, potentially through a grant, especially if they are previous rentals that have never been brought back online.
Thank you. All those in favor? Oh, carried. We're gonna hold you to the 4.7 there, Holly. 10.3 budget community input, what we heard report, recommendation that council receive this report for information purposes. Councillor Baxter. Oh, Councillor Petrosi, Councillor. Wow, I was just looking over here. Give me a minute. Any questions on this, what we heard? Okay, we will, all those in favor for taking us in. We're on 10.3. 10.3. What we heard. Oh. You have a question? We already voted on this. 10.3. Yeah. That's right. Well, we've already voted on this. So. Fine. Answer the yeah, it's only for information. Go ahead, Councillor Lazy.
Well, I was turning the page. It's a little slower now, you know? So, there's a lot of contradiction here in this report. It's, lots of contradiction.
Well, to be honest with you, the whole thing is a contradiction. It's been going now for almost 8 months.
Yeah, well, first of all, I know that the survey only had 10 people respond. Well, okay, that's a null and void survey then. It's just not enough to pay attention to. And you know, when they want less support given to upgrading fire services, well, then down here they want fire rescue was third. You know, they don't want recreation, and then they want recreation. So I find that this is just a really confusing and contradictory
So
report.
I want to clarify this because
Go
this
ahead.
is not what we heard. I'm talking about the RCMP, what we heard, not this one. Sorry, this was ours. I thought, because it's funny that the RCMP one is called exactly the same thing, what we heard. So that's not the one I'm saying was a bit of a mess. This one was done fine.
Oh, so I can respond to Councilor
Yes,
Chair. So ultimately, what we're presenting to you is the community input that we received.
Yeah.
And it's very raw because we're not recommending or identifying that there's a trend or anything. This is just an opportunity for council to actually receive, and for the community here, the council is receiving the feedback that they were provided during the 2-week process of the budget,
Mhm.
as well as during our the survey and the two open houses, right? So ultimately, yeah, it's very mixed, because some people really just think we should be investing in water and sewer, which, you know, not unreasonable. Some people want more investment in the nice to haves, which also is very reasonable. But this is just an opportunity for council to say, okay, we hear you. We'll think about this. Where are the trends? The trends are our core infrastructure, it does look like. And that is how council sort of formatted your budget last year. You really focused on the fact that the core infrastructure has to be dealt with before we deal with anything else. So if council's to take anything from what we heard, it's that you were very well on the right path with dealing with our core infrastructure. And that people want more investment in that core infrastructure to ensure that the community stays safe and viable.
I do agree with that, because in both sections or 3 sections, it is the infrastructure is number 1. And I think we do have to pay attention to that.
I don't think it matters how many people came out for it. It's the fact that people came out for it. And you know, you have to listen to what they, I like the dot comics, dot matrix. That was very cool. I got dot democracy on the back of my shirt, and I didn't realize till I got home. Councillor Richard.
It's interesting. You're gonna get comments like that. Nobody's gonna be happy with everything all the time anyway, so. We're trying our best with the few pennies that we have. And doesn't matter what you do, people are gonna tell you did it wrong anyway, so try your best and hope that you don't piss off too many people along the way.
So we'll, and again, I want to explain the fact that what we heard when I was unhappy with was the RCMP one, sorry. Not this one. I'll show you that one tomorrow. Again, all those in favor? Thank you, Councilor Charney. Opposed? Councilor Charney? Carried, thank you. 10.4 Development Variance Permit DVP 2024-001 at 228 Burgess Avenue. Recommendation that council grants development variance permit DVP 2024-001 to allow the decreased minimum front setback for the property at 2288 Burgess Avenue. You're up, sir. It's your time to shine. Welcome back. I'll just get you to
Evening,
say your
Councilor.
name. I'll just get you to say your name again, just so we know.
Perry Broad, 2877 Upland Crescent, Abbotsford. Sorry for earlier, probably first time at
Not a problem.
public hearing, so. So when we bought this property, probably a couple of years ago, because we are going to start building a condo site on 2350 Merritt Avenue. It's 89 condo. We are pretty close to getting the permit out. So that time we thought we need we will have a lot of people coming from out of town, mostly tradesmen. And we need a accommodation where we can keep those people because they can come back and go back every day. So it will be sometime 30, 40 different tradesmen and probably some days only 5 people there, right? So when we bought this property, we confirmed with the city planner what we can do there, what size we can build. But at the end, it comes that to build what you guys looking for, you need a variance. So then we delayed our condo site for almost 2 years, struggling to get this variance. So now we are at the point that we're pretty close to get the condo site permit, probably within a few weeks, I would say. Is at the last stage with the city. So if we get the variance, we want to build what we're looking for on this property. So we have enough size duplex or house what we're looking for. Plus maybe we can use the garage for storage or some valuable things we need at our condo site so we can keep it here. So that was the biggest reason for variance, what we're looking for. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Councilor Charney.
So I drove by it today. And so what you're asking is to move the buildings closer to the road than what we currently have. Is that my understanding of the variance is?
Krisha.
Thank you, Councillor Charney. So there's no building currently on site.
No.
But the front setback limitation is 5 meters.
Mhm.
Because of the river and the presence of the river, they need to be 30 meters away from the river because of the riparian, excuse me, riparian setbacks. To do that, they need to move the building towards the road, as you said, and that would reduce the front setback to 2 meters. And there are no concerns from any other internal departments regarding this. Just one that if the buildings move closer to the road, then there's this visibility issue where, because there's a turnaround for the Burgess Ave, there could be a visibility issue for the cars turning around. So the only concern raised by Mr. Green over there was maybe there could be a no parking sign for the road itself. And having moved the building towards the road, if we can solve the problem of riparian setback, that is something that also the OCP recommends, that any development must consider natural habitat and more innovations and more innovative solutions to protect the natural habitat. Did I answer your question?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can see, I've got a picture here, and I don't see a problem with it as far as I'm concerned. I wouldn't have a problem with passing this one.
Thank you. Counselor Egan.
Yeah, so I guess I have to go on, yeah, sorry. I'm concerned with the area where you're building, is that it's more of a residential area. And putting, I mean, how many units are you planning on putting in there? Just a house and a duplex? Okay. So, okay. Okay,
So the variance is.
Bishop.
So the variance is not for the number of units that they are going to be putting, because by law that, by the zoning bylaw that was passed recently, they are anyway allowed to have a duplex and a carriage home. And anyway, we allowed secondary suites in the duplex even before this bylaw was passed. So what they are building, or what they are proposing to build, was always allowed by the zoning bylaw. So this is nothing to do with how many units they are going to be putting. This variance is more for the setback
okay.
itself.
And it's not gonna make a difference?
No.
Not gonna
It's-
make a difference to the actual lay of the road?
The road is, because they are not going to be, they are still going to be 2 meters away from the road itself.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Petrosi.
Yeah, I took a drive down there today myself. Actually, I'm down there quite a bit, actually. I like going down and turning around in that cul-de-sac. I think it's actually Burgess is very narrow. Actually, I don't agree with actually, it should be set the way it was meant to be set, not brought forward towards the road. I don't think there's enough room. Concern with vehicle parking, snow removal, there's some major issues coming up. If
Yeah.
it's not changing the road, I know, but it's just, I can just see parking and just a lot more traffic through there, and the snow removal thing is definitely gonna be an issue come winter.
So what happens is that all the departments that would be impacted by any development period are consulted. So the Director of Public Works and Engineering, who also happens to be the Director of Planning and Development, and his team would review it from an operational perspective, the same with the fire department. So they review these things via an operational perspective, and they're presenting that they don't find that it's going to impact their operations. The only recommendation they're making is that there be no parking signs to limit what you're talking about, which is more clutter on the road.
Counselor Achard.
If this was a connected road to other major streets, I would be concerned. Really, the only residents that go down there are people who are going to the homes, and if they have garages, I don't think it's, yeah, except for, yeah, remember on the end there. Yeah, it's an area of nice homes. They'll have, with what they've been building, people have sump pumps, so the concern with flooding was more of a concern before we did the raising of the road. Back in 2017 and 18, we had flooding in that area, but after raising the road in 2019 and 20, it's not as much of a concern. People have some pumps. I'd say, I mean, 2 meters is still what, 7 feet?
6 meters.
I mean, really, and there's a development permit.
Counselor Egan.
Yeah, thank you. How many parking units are you going to have on the lot itself? Not in front of the lot.
There won't be a lot of like parking vehicle, because our condo site will be very close to this. Condo site is on Merritt Avenue.
Across the river.
Across the, like probably I would say 1,000 meters away from that. So all the like tradesman's vehicle will be parking there. So there's no, usually the tradesmen have a bigger van and everything, so that will be parked there. But they will be come here at the end of the day to sleep or stay most of time, because for 89 condo, we need lots of tradesmen. And from Merritt, we can't get that many. Like even we try close by, there's no way we can get. So most of people, because we do a lot of construction in mostly lower mainland, like Abbotsford, Langley, sorry, we just moved here probably 2 years ago when we bought that condo site. So most of tradesmen coming from that side, and probably some stay 2 weeks, depend who's working there, right? Like if it's a drywall, or probably stay here like probably 10 people or 20 people. But they won't be parking on that. It will be most for staying at night. And all the vans, everything will be, we will have a set up at the condo site for parking and everything before we starting the construction there.
So Perry, I think this is more when the project is finished. Where are people going to be parking now? I see there's garage doors on it, right? So
Yeah.
you're actually going to be parking inside your residence, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, that's, I think what Councilor Egan was after. CL,
Yeah, and there have been changes to the requirements for parking with the new provincial legislation. So we will only require the minimum amount of parking as we are required to by the provincial legislation that they didn't consult us on.
Krisha?
And just want to clarify that this is just for the variance. We were still requiring them, the applicant to apply for a development permit, which will be riparian geotechnical and which will also cover parking and other issues that we may have.
Thank you. I have a mover and seconder on this, Diana. No? Ashley, do I have a mover and seconder? Do I have a mover and a seconder? Not yet? Okay. So the recommendation is that council grants development variance permit DVP 2024-001 to allow the decreased minimum front setback for property at 2288 Burgess Avenue. Councilor Ogan, Councilor at charge. Any more questions than the ones we've already had? No? All those in favor? Opposed? Happy building.
Thank you.
Thank you. 10.5, Council Policy Review Committee recommendations from July 25th, 2024. The following recommendations are forwarded from the July 25th, 2024 Policy Review Committee for consideration by Council. Recommendation that Council adopt the Memorial Recognition and Community Enhancement Policy. Councillor Etchart, Councillor Egan. Questions? Councillor Charney.
Okay, after our policy review, I did a little more thinking. It's hard. Anyway, I have a problem with the 10-year span. If it's a bench, I contacted the companies, the two Uline, and I can't remember the other ones. They have a 50-year lifespan for these benches. And after 10 years, we're asking these people to pay more for this and for this bench. And I find that, in my opinion, not acceptable. We're wanting more trails and development of our recreation. We should be encouraging more benches, picnic tables, etc. So I don't think that we should then say, okay, well, after 10 years, you now have to repurchase or renew that bench. For some things, maybe a husband passes away, the wife purchases the bench, which they are not cheap. It's $3,000 in a lot of cases. And then in 10 years, maybe she's gone and the family can't afford it. So what we're doing is we're going to take off daddy's plaque and daddy's forgotten. I personally, I don't think that's right. I think that we should be charging the cost of the bench and the cement pad and the plaque. I don't think we should be making a profit off it. And I don't think after 10 years, when that bench has still got lots of life in it, we should be saying you have to now pay a renewal fee on that. So, I see.
That's standard debenture.
I was just going to say, I see Oliver and Asuyas do that all, but does that mean we have to be exactly the same way? No, I think that I don't think that we should be trying to make money off people's memorials. That's just my personal
You're on the
opinion.
policy committee, right?
I am on the policy committee, but I did some thinking afterwards. I can think
That's the problem.
sometimes. I know. But I just think that we should really look at that 10-year and even though it's standard, that bench has still got lots of life in it.
See ya.
And,
I just want to clarify that $3,000 does not cover the cost of purchase, shipping and installation of the bench. Does not cover the cost. When you start talking about the concrete,
the cost of the bench is either from $850 to $1,000. Shipping was $500. Plaque was $300.
So that doesn't include the cost of concrete and installation. So when we're talking about the cost of putting a bench in, we have to talk about the whole cost, not just the cost of the bench. So it's $3,000. When you're saying that, like, we're not making any profit off of this, just to be clear.
Hold on a second. You're blinking. You're blinking. Counselor Etchart.
Okay. I'm just trying to, be cheeky and well, maybe stretch a little bit, but the truth is that, okay, the idea of the memorial bench is great. And also we only have so many sites where we're going to have these benches. So at the same time, when you want to have a good memory of your family member, I can appreciate that, but also things also update and refresh. And I mean, how many times has DeWolf Way been changed in the last 30 years since, remember, Petro used to be neighbor's gas station when it opened in '89. Things changed. Dairy Queen was the first drive-through restaurant to be up there before KFC, which is now gone. Things change. It's different. It's different. And I understand memorial benches, but at the same time, sometimes the families move on, they move away, they're not even in town. Maybe the benches don't fit in with what's nearby because we've changed the neighborhood, we've redesigned the park, I don't know. Sometimes you may even want to just change the bench because maybe it's not fitting in with the update of the playground that you have in Rotary Park or wherever, or maybe we've added a third columbarium at that time in the cemetery and it doesn't fit with the design. I don't know. I just think that maybe the 10 years isn't so bad.
A classic example of this is the pool. Half the plaques we have on the walls are companies that are no longer in existence. I know, but not for 100 years. We're near 30 on that pool. It's time to pull those plaques down and get somebody else in there. Councillor Egan.
Thank you. Yes, I kind of agree. However, my question is really what is the actual cost and what is the actual lifetime of one of these benches? Because I want to use a case in point, which is over by the funeral home where a fella sat for probably 5 years before his death, and his family bought that and put it there, and it's still in good shape.
You're on the policy committee too, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay, just checking. CAO.
So things have an expected lifespan. However, when we're talking about purchasing something like this, we're not just talking about the actual purchase, right? There is maintenance. We have to make sure there's no graffiti on it. We have to make sure the concrete's still in good shape. We have to make sure it's accessible. We have to repair things because people are disrespectful. So when we have to cut grass around it, we have to, whatever. So when you're talking about these things, the reason we do these bench memorials is not to make money, but it's to beautify the community. And when we're talking about beautifying the community, we're talking about all of the parts of beautifying the community, including around those memorial benches. Now, I'm not going to tell council what to do. This is very standard policy. In many communities, I've actually done research on this particular one in my previous community, and many communities across the country do this. Probably not all of them. I'm not going to say that. However, when you think about if you wanted to build a new arena and we got somebody to donate the cost of the arena, they wouldn't donate the cost of operations associated with that arena. So when we're talking about probably the reason that we're looking for that 10-year thing is because there's often other costs associated with that piece of infrastructure being in place. And that's essentially it.
Maybe this should be returned to policy committee. Well, I mean, really, so I make a motion. Do we have motions seconded and?
Just a motion to receive for information, wasn't it?
No, it's the motion to go ahead and do it. So I'd like to make a friendly amendment, and the amendment is that
you're changing it. So you have to vote this down, I think.
Okay, well. Councillor Etchart, you did have you were blinking there.
I was, and only because now we got sidetracked. We could end up wanting to change this, and the other thing is too is that sometimes you have updates that you want to do. There's kind of lost where we were going with the discussion, but we could bring it back. But the thing is that
you're on the committee too, right?
Yeah, we're just gonna fight it out in a smaller meeting, and it will be even more entertaining.
Hold on a sec. No, Councillor Charney.
I agree with what CAO said, that there's the cost of maintenance. That's nothing to do with after the 10-year. Guy's gone.
See, you're at these meetings, were you not? I'm just checking because
I agree with Attorney that it's not necessarily that the person needs to be gone, but the renewal is to continue to be able to keep this bench in good condition for the next 10 years. That's
Counselor-
it. You could
Counselor-
change the amount for the renewal. You could get rid of the renewal. I do think it's appropriate for council to consider sending this back to committee.
Councillor Egan.
Okay, well, I think this is all of this has come up with because there was a family that wants to install one, like this weekend. Because that's the anniversary of their mother's death.
They can still go ahead and do it.
Can they?
Sure.
We have to have some ground rules for them.
Well, they've already got them. We're changing what's already in existence, or we're confirming what's already, there's already a rule there for it. It's not saying that they can't. It's just that, I'm not saying you don't bring up a valid point. Maybe we extend it to 15, maybe we extend it to 20. I mean, but I feel that this should be going back to the policy committee because we've got.
Has there been, okay, well, I'm just still wondering about this family that wants to install this. Has there been a choice, a site selected for this, for them?
Well,
This is in regards to fire.
Yes.
Yeah, so our intention is to put a bench in the fire smart garden with this plaque on.
The process to do it is still alive. We're just making a change.
Okay, has
Has
the family been
policy
contacted?
and review. We're reviewing.
Gotcha, I gotcha. Has the
Councillor
family-
Edger, Councillor Edger.
Don't I still have the floor?
Oh, yes, do. Sorry, my mistake. I thought you were done. Councillor Edger.
Okay, the point that I was wanting to make was that the only reason why I think we have to put a 10 year so that we can review them is in case they're needing repair. Maybe they don't. But with the murals in town, that is where this has been an issue. So if we put a renewal section on it every 10 years, because when the Desert Inn, is this still called the Desert Inn? Yeah, anyway, the Valnick, the Desert Inn, Cactus Inn, whatever you want to call it. When they had the mural on there was a big argument about who owned the mural. And so I think the need for having a time frame on a bench or a memorial item is necessary because in case the property sells or you redevelop the area and you have to move the bench, we have to have some kind of term or contract or lease instead of like these leases that were done 50 years ago for $1 or something like that with no time frame. And that's the only reason. I do agree. You want to remember dad or grandma or whatever. I don't disagree. It's just sometimes it creates problems later.
Councillor Egan. No, go ahead. Go ahead. Hit your button. Okay. CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, Councillor Egan, I actually thought you were contacting the family, but let's discuss tomorrow to make sure that they know about the. Oh, okay. So we'll make sure that gets done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, which we
The
have.
second part of this is this discussion, I think, is devolving into we should send this back to committee and let's just vote on that.
Okay, let's do that.
Because I think there's a lot of good discussion that needs to go to committee.
I said that already. So we have a recommendation on the floor that council, oh, sure, why not? You're not on the committee, so go ahead.
Good. So I want to start with that I'm not part of the committee. So I think that everyone is raising good points here. So I follow Councillor HR's rationale about why we should have the 10 years, but also I don't think that we need to have a fee. So we can have the 10 years, without a fee, and it would solve the problem. Why? So we will fix the recommendation by Councillor Charney, but also if the family is not interested in having that bench for after 10 years, so they have to renew it, but it is not basically. Yeah, thank you.
So we will move ahead with so I've already read the recommendation twice. All those in favor? No, this is to take it as it sits now, that the council adopt the memorial recognition and community enhancement policy. All those in favor? Opposed? Fail. Does anybody want to make a motion? Yeah, I do. I would like the memorial and recognition and community enhancement policy returned to the policy and review committee for consideration and more information to be provided from staff so we can get a clearer picture on that. So just a question, when somebody buys a tree after 10 years, do we cut it down?
So ultimately, the discretion of what happens to the memorial is, it's at the discretion of the city, what happens to any of those things that are purchased. So after 10 years, Councillor Etchart is correct. After 10 years, if it doesn't go with our theme, if we are changing out, we win the lottery and we're changing out every single bench, it is at our discretion. We want to make sure that nobody thinks that they own the bench, right? So that we have the right to remove it if we need to. Same thing with a tree. We do not have to, as per the bylaw, we don't have to do, we're just review it every 10 years. And we don't have to charge a fee, but it has to remain that it's not owned by the people who are purchasing it, donating it to the city as a memorial.
See, now we're just beating this horse to death right now.
Okay, so that's it.
Thank you. We voted, right? No. Oh, all those in favor? Oh, on the second one of it returning to the policy, I made a motion. I need a seconder. Councilor Petrosi. All those in favor? Opposed? No vote means yes, it's passed. So, notice of motion, God help us. Nope, no notice of motion. Reports from council. It's been a long time, so who wants to take a stab at it? Councillor Etchart.
Okay, so it's been a while since we've all been around. I mean, it's been a whole month, so we had the policy review back in June, and I think you all know who the three members, July. And you know who the three members are because you know some people have
outed you,
giggled and pointing and stuff from the other side of the room. We also had the victim services meeting with the Women in Action, kind of explaining all the services that are provided for the with the police service and what a valuable service that is. And I hope at UBCM we can discuss with the ministry staff about why we need more funding. There was the ECDEV meeting on August the 17th, business after business, August the 15th. But that actually got canceled. And then I was recently at the SOGA board meeting where they were talking about a review of the different groups, SOGA, the Island Group, Northern Group, all the regional council organizations to discuss the reformatting for support for regional districts, about how they do this with the community plan and services. So it was a very interesting meeting. So I find that the SOGA meeting was very effective on some of the stuff that they're bringing up to support the different regions. They were talking about a new website for SOGA to kind of feature some of the communities. So that's something that the board is looking at. So it's nice to see. Anyway, thanks.
What's returning?
July 25 was the policy review. And we discussed the Bailey House lease and the memorial recognition and community enhancement, which.
That went well.
Yep. And then the emergency measures bylaw. It wasn't as controversial then as it was tonight. Sorry. July 29th, went to the tour of the Middlesbrough Bridge. Was very impressed with how they've come along, and even more impressed now as I look at it and see the cement spans going across, and it's really looking good. Friday night market on August 2, which was good. Met a few people there. August 3, I started my JIBC courses as recommended by Adam Hart. So I took the emergency 1100 and emergency 1200 courses. And I had a few questions and they were kind of answered tonight. August 7th, lunch and learn victim services. There is an expectation from the provincial government that the local government pay 50% of the cost of the victim services, which again is downloading, which I always have a problem with this. And victim services said that they have not contacted the TNRD or First Nations for any funding. So the mayor did suggest that they maybe contact those two groups so that they could help with their funding. And the RCMP does provide in kind, through office supplies, the actual office and the telephone. August 8th was the age-friendly and accessibility. We talked about the podium there that if someone is in a wheelchair, they can't get to that microphone. So maybe that we could have a podium that goes up and down. Buttons on the microphone. We have a visually impaired person that is on that committee and she couldn't find the button. And then there was a question of whether the city has had an accessibility audit done. So maybe I'll leave that one with the CAO. And after August 8th, I've done nothing. So.
Sweet. Too much information, but great. Anyone else? Okay, I'll go ahead. So I did a lot of that stuff too. I was actually at the policy review as well, so apparently everything went over my head. On the 26th, we had the last Airport Appreciation Day meeting. I love the bridge and dike. I'll go over and look at it. I've had a look at it, and Councillor Petrosi keeps sending us pictures, and it's nice to see the deck across the bridge all the way. It's really nice. On August 2nd, we had a DMAF call with the executive to still continue to push our concerns and some of the problems with the way they've handled our DMAF application. And we were able to show them some information where they apparently did not know their own processes. And we pointed that out. We are continuing to work on talking to them in Ottawa at some point. We did the victim services thing. We had the age-friendly. We had the eco-development. On the 13th, we had the Nickel Watershed. It was a really good report from Patrick Farmer on where we are. He's a little concerned that we're still at level 3 as the rest of the province has gone to level 4. But one of the reasons we went to level 3 early was so we didn't have to go to 4 and 5. And I think it's worked out quite well. The rains today has really helped. So some people are asking about why we're not going back to level 2. And at this point, it's so we can continue the cycle so we can get a full, what the whole level 3 looks like. And I believe October 1st is when restrictions do come off. Is it? No, I thought we were September. Okay, we'll wait for that one. TNRD, we had, this time it was the Merritt tour. So they came to Merritt. A lot of the TNRD members have been to Merritt, but they bought gas, got some food, and then buggered off. They've never actually been into Merritt. They were very impressed with everything we have here. We stopped out at the Sage, the golf course, and we had lunch out on the deck out there, and it was beautiful. We stopped at the Merritt Church, and there was a nice presentation from Richie Gage and Jack Holmans and Linda Baird on how that worked. They were very impressed with the church, all the history with it. Told them all about the ghosts in the house across the street and dared anybody to go in, but they didn't go. Then they came into town, did a Barkman tour, and then we went to the Grand for an amazing supper, which everybody raved about the next day. And then we were all out at Smith Pioneer Park for the upgrades up there. So Area Director M and N, Director Laird and Director Graham have done a great job on that park. It's absolutely amazing. And before we got out there, they had just installed the zip line. So all these wacko TNRD people are on this zip line, and it kept sagging more and more. But so they had to tighten it up after we left. Here we are breaking all the stuff. And again, the Grand was out there feeding us lunch, and it was absolutely amazing. On the 16th, I was at the Nicola Valley Parade meeting. We're getting very close to parade time. Matter of fact, this Friday. Mark it on your calendars. Have one more tomorrow night. We had the Recreation Committee meeting. That Recreation Committee is doing very well. We're meeting every month until budget time, so everybody can have an idea what it's like. And it's quite amazing to see some of the lights going on with the members who thought this was going to be a slam dunk and no problem, but it's not. Yesterday, I met with Barkman and Caribou Clean Fuel, who are looking at building a $100 million investment in the community up by the airport for hydrogen/diesel trucks. So they have gone through with Barkman to see if they can use some of their byproduct. When you create hydrogen, two things get created, carbon and pure oxygen. And the carbon can go to fly ash to Barkman to help with their design, with their process, and be a lot cheaper than what they're paying for it now. So it'd be nice to see that area finally get developed. So that's in the beginning stages, and we'll see where it goes. The Caribou Clean Fuel will be sending some of their ash to Barkman so they can do some test runs with it and see the strength of the product and how well it's going to go. I just want to take a moment to recognize the passing of Jeff Schulten's a good friend and somebody who was our chair of the airport committee and was co-founder of the Airport Appreciation Day on a sad accident that took his life and the life of another person in his airplane. We're still waiting to find out what happened with that. But I just want to recognize that Jeff, in his short time here, made quite a difference in the community, made quite an impact, and was very involved and was always there for everybody to, if he needed a hand. He had a very good business sense. He traveled all over the world, teaching English as a second language and preaching his gospel. And he was a very religious man. And I just want to recognize that he was a big part of this community, and we will miss him. So that's me. Oh, Councillor Charney.
I just had something, in January or February, we were approached with, I think it's prostate, it's in my calendar, prostate cancer, and it's blue light for September. And we did say at that time that we would put some blue lights in the city. Yeah,
Well,
I marked it
I
down
think-
in my
I
calendar.
think we've passed that day, but I'll have a look. It did come to me. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I think we passed that day, but let me see.
so it's supposed to be September.
Yeah, but they
September
sent
is-
it to me in the spring. So let me, I'll check. Let me
Yeah,
have a
yeah,
look
yeah.
at, I'll check. And if
That's
it is,
good.
we'll get you to put a blue light outside of your house. Okay.
No, it's downtown.
Red light. Oh, I think I'll kill that one. Anyone else? Moving on. Information items. We have a bunch of them. Anybody want to pick one out? I just want to say congratulations to the 3 people that went to the BC Summer Games that represented us. I did get the email back with their names, and I don't know what I've done with it. I was gonna yak their names out, but I can't remember what they are. Okay, thank you. Is there anything that anybody wants to? Oh, Councillor Charney, please.
Okay, the West Coast Energy here, I asked this question before of the pipeline going to Kingsvale, and that's where the generators, et cetera, are and all that. But there is a spur going to Merritt. And I asked that at the presenter before, and I asked him if there were going to be any power lines, et cetera, coming in on that spur, and the fellow did not know. Well, I see that spur here again.
So I've
It's not
asked,
the pipeline, it's the electric.
it's existing.
It's
an
the
existing line that's
so
already
there, okay, that's what I want to know. So there are
It's
no
existing.
more.
They would have to
additional.
actually, they would have had to take it out. It's existing.
Okay,
So he didn't know, but I did, then phoned up and asked, and it's an existing line.
thank you.
Yeah.
That's what I want to know.
It's an existing line. Yes. When you sent me the text, I asked. Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Egan.
I'm just looking at the Canada Power. Is that this is a windmill project, I believe, again. And I was reading just the other day that there's another one planned for Logan Lake. Is this all the same?
No, this is the Canada Power one is the extension of the 5 that are already up going to Kelowna.
Okay.
They're going to be putting in a few more. I don't know exactly how many, but they're talking about putting in a few more. As far as the Logan Lake, I have no idea.
Yeah, because I did read that yesterday.
There very well could be. There's a lot of alternative energy. We've been to 3 different solar ones in the last 8 months.
So will this benefit us as well, or is that
I'm
just more
not really
for
sure.
Summerland?
I'm not really sure where their power goes. I don't know. I'm assuming their power gets sold to Hydro, and then Hydro directs it where it needs to go.
Well, this says Summerland. So anyway, okay.
Excellent. CEO report. You're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few updates. With regards to UBCM, particularly the victim services information, we are not getting a meeting with that particular ministry. They have indicated there is no time for us. So staff will be reaching out to staff at that department to discuss this, because it is a standing resolution for a number of years with UBCM. So we will reach out to staff to schedule a meeting before Christmas, like in the fall. We have several of these we've decided we needed to do. We also will not be getting a meeting with health.
What a surprise.
To a surprise. I blame that on the mayor.
All right, fine.
So we won't be getting a meeting with health. We are still waiting to hear.
So we're not going to get a meeting to talk about absolutely nothing that he's doing anyway.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
We we did get a meeting with Walrus. We do have a meeting with the Premier, but we're just waiting to hear back on some details about that. And I think we just got one today, didn't we? No, sorry, that was Walrus. Okay. So we will not have an opportunity to advocate for victim services funding at UBCM, but we will find the opportunities to let them know that that needs to be brought forward. Yeah.
It's a sad situation.
Yeah. Accessibility audit. We are in the process of preparing for an accessibility audit. Level 3. So what we're hoping to do is, and much like Kamloops, we're staying in level 3. What we want to do is assess how we do for a whole year in level 3, because the city of Merritt per capita uses like 4 times the national average for water. Oh, but yeah, maybe. But we need to figure it out. So we're going to stay at level 3 because we've seen some improvement in our water consumption over the summer while we've been at this. So the director of public works and engineering would like to have a full year at level 3 to assess our usage and start getting a better handle on why, much like when we're talking about the water meters and being able to measure end user amounts versus what we produce in the plants or in the wells. Where is that water going and why is our usage so high compared to the rest of the country? I wanted to give you an update. We are preparing to do some assessments of particularly school zones and parks for traffic, speeds, signage, everything. So our CPO is going to be taking a lead on that, working with bylaw to get some data about speeds in certain zones. So you'll see our speed sign out, so people should be aware that we are watching. That's kind of sketchy. I wanted to give you a bit of an update about the information we do have now about the shelter. Having met with with BC Housing on Friday, the CO and I met with them. They have confirmed they've signed a lease with the Knights Inn. That lease will start, I believe, September 1st, but they are not anticipating being open until probably the end of October. Based on the current bylaws that we have no nothing prohibiting them from operating a shelter in this zone. So it is zoned. There's nothing to say it's zoned inappropriately, so we can't stop it that way. Interestingly enough, even though if it was not zoned properly, we still couldn't do anything because BC Housing, their operators and private property owners who are contracted by BC Housing are immune to zoning. So they do not have to follow our zoning bylaw. Why we have in our discussions with them, they have assured us that this would be a very different setup than the Desert Inn shelter because the Desert Inn shelter was not an appropriate physical location. There were too many concurrent uses. So this shelter will have a more typical feel. It will have the fencing. It will have more security cameras. It will have more staff. So there will be a lot more of their typical security and operations. It's going to have only people who are currently sheltered there will be able to access it. So I better put my glasses on. It is going to be difficult for some people to imagine that, given what they've seen and what they're currently seeing with the encampment. But ultimately, if we do not have a shelter in the community, we must allow camping overnight. And the current most recent cases have extended those camping hours to be 7 p.m. to 9 a.m. in municipalities. So the expectation is that if this were to go to court, we would have to be able to defend our bylaw. So we would have to change it to 7 to 9. So again, it has to be somewhere in the city that they're allowed to camp. We may want to review the current location and determine if that is the most appropriate location or if there's somewhere else we would like people to camp. But ultimately, we're going to be working very closely with BC Housing and the operator to ensure that the shelter has minimal impact on the neighborhood and that they're employing good safety practices and good programming to keep people in the shelter safe, but also our neighbors safe and their yards unaffected, their property unaffected by shelter. hoping for the best in that we see some real success in this shelter. We're going to be bringing forward some amendments to the Good Neighbor bylaw and the Parks bylaw to ensure that all residents, including those camping and the shelter, are keeping our city to be an inviting place, keeping it clean, keeping it orderly. But any of these amendments we make to the Good Neighbor bylaw apply to all residents of the community equally. So we cannot apply any changes simply to the shelter. Anything we do applies to all people. So if people are unable to keep their yards clean, some people are experiencing the outcome of that right now. We have some safety protocols. I know people are upset because we can't decamp the current encampment at the Desert Inn, but it is on private property. So that is something that precludes us from being able to decamp them. As well, we have been received reports from RCMP that there are people with weapons in those camps, and our bylaw officers are not in any way trained to deal with that. Homelessness is not something bylaw officers are trained to deal with. Decamping people is not part of their training. So for safety reasons, we are not sending bylaw officers into a place where people have weapons without RCMP support. And of course, as the mayor said, we're short on detachment members. And so they are dealing with more high profile things, and we kind of have to book them in to make sure that we can deal with people who are camping and are not taking down their tents. So there's a variety of things we're going to be working on that way.
CEO,
Mhm.
just to update you, the gentleman that owns the Desert Inn still is under contract till April of 2025 with BC Housing.
Mhm.
So he is still able to do what he's doing.
Not the encampment part.
Not the encampment part, but he
Yeah.
still is under contract.
Yeah.
Now, they've put up no trespassing
Mhm.
signs there.
Yeah,
So-
and we have issued a notice that there are they have infractions under the Good Neighbor bylaw and the zoning bylaw, and they have a date in which they must be in compliance, or we will have to help bring them into compliance. So that's something we're working on. So it is a very complex situation. You know, there are a number of issues, precedents set by court in other municipalities that we must follow, human rights issues. You know, people need a place to live, whether that's unfortunately in a tent, but it has to be a safe place to live, and we have to help make it as safe as possible. I would encourage council to remind our community members that we don't know what experiences brought these people to this situation. Whether there are people who are facing drug addiction, or there are people who have lost their homes because of losing jobs or whatever, we can't walk in their shoes. So just, you know, all we can do is be kind to one another and work towards finding a solution that allows us people to have a safe place to rest their heads at night. We will be having this open house on September 5th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Civic Center. And then in discussions with the mayor and our director for housing, we're working on developing a working group over the next, I think we have hoping to have our initial meeting at the beginning of October. And then getting a regular meeting of a working group to help address issues that people have in regards to the shelter, camps, or people camping, you know, people who are experiencing homelessness who may be impacting local businesses or anything like that. But we have to have a stronger voice, and we have to get BC Housing and the shelter operator to do the things that we expect of them to make our city safe and to have the least impact on our residents as possible. I think that's it for me, other than our regular CPO, council resolutions, and fire stats.
Thank you. I'm not sure there's a lot of people listening, but I do understand that on September the 5th, we're asking people to give us questions in advance if they can.
Yes, so you will see some social media posts, and we will put in the paper. Unfortunately, it'll just be on September 5th, but ideally people will be able to send us questions in advance. They can send them to info@merritt.ca, because what we'd like to do is be able to prepare some answers that are meaningful rather than trying to answer off the cuff or give them we don't know, we'll get back to you response. Like, we want to make this a meaningful discussion for people so they feel like they're heard, and so they understand that we are working closely with BC Housing and that we're well informed as an organization on what we need to do and how we can support this going in a positive direction. So
And we'll have most of the players there
Yes, we have extended an invitation to BC Housing. We haven't heard a response from them. We've extended an invitation to the RCMP to attend, as well as I believe most of council has indicated their ability to attend.
That's it. Any other questions before I bring down the old hand? We are adjourned. Thank you all.